Joanna Gaines, who doesn't love her? You may know her as the host of HGTV's Fixer Upper, along with her husband Chip Gaines. She is the mastermind behind Magnolia Market. She has her own book, or books at this point, and she has multiple of her own businesses. She is a force to be reckoned with and a beautiful soul. So why not do her numerology chart? Now, when I do a numerology chart, I always include an epithet or a nickname also at the very beginning, and I base this off of the two strongest energies. That would be the life path and the expression. Now, Joanna was born as Joanna Leah Stevens on April 19th, 1978. Now, with this natal name, her original expression was at the 6th energy. This changed when she changed her name after she got married to Joanna Leah Gaines, and now her expression is the 11/2 master number. So her nickname before she changed her name is the creative communicator, and now her nickname is the super sensitive creative. Now let's dive in with the life path. The life path is based off of one's birthday. That would be the month, the day, and the year, all distilled down to a single number. And for Joanna, it is the 3. This life path is all about creativity, communication, emotional sensitivity, and creating joy in life. This is the energy of the consummate entertainer, whether that's through acting, through singing, through writing, through just being funny and witty, or through dancing, modeling, counseling, or even designing. Really, life is a performance with this path. The entire world is her stage. Now, creativity and intuition go hand in hand. So Joanna and anyone with the 3 life path can find that inspiration really strikes randomly. But what's really happening is Joanna is like a sponge, constantly soaking up information from every situation that she's in. And she's able to fuse all of that, all ideas that seem disconnected. She's able to fuse them into something completely new that the world hasn't seen before. In reality, the creative essence has very little to do with just painting or drawing or writing. Creativity derives from this ability to create something new out of ideas or inspiration in the surroundings. So that could be creativity even in terms of a new way of thinking, or creativity even in academics. Now, Joanna, we know that she is a designer, right? She makes beautiful rooms and beautiful houses, and this really has been her forte. Now, if you've heard her speak about her past, Joanna has talked about how she was not very good at designing very early on, and that's to be expected. So when you have a 3 for your life path, that means this is what you're here to learn to do. Doesn't mean that you come out of the womb being absolutely perfect at it. So Joanna really had to work to become creative, but it was always there. Now, another aspect with the 3 is because inspiration strikes at seemingly random times, and the 3s also tend to be very good at very many different things. There could be a tendency to completely scatter energies, to start several different projects all at the same time and maybe not follow through on all of them. There's this perfectionistic type of tendency with the 3, and so there could be a lot of excitement at the very beginning, and then fear creeps in when it comes to actually seeing it through to the end, and that combined with a new pretty idea all the way here, it's very easy for anyone with the 3 life path to say, oh, well, I'm going to drop this and I'm going to start doing that. Or it can be the case that the 3 wants to do everything all at once, and it's just not physically possible. So there are 2 sides to every single energy. So when Joanna is aligned on her 3 life path, she's likely warm, kind, imaginative, optimistic, kind, and funny. Also, Joanna, and we can see this when we see her on her show, has a real eye and ear for beauty, a real aesthetic sense. It is also this ability to see beauty in things that underlies her ability, or anyone who has the 3 life path, her ability to roll with the punches. Crisis can come up a lot with the 3 life path, and because there's this ability to tap into seeing the best in people or the best in situations, after a period of suffering, this strength can come forward to rise out of the ashes. So when Joanna is out of alignment with the 3 energy, and I'd like to preface this by saying that we all go back and forth between alignment and unalignment on whatever energies are existent in our chart. So when Joanna is out of alignment, she may become maybe a little bit superficial or too materially oriented, or she could become very insecure in herself or in her creative abilities. She could also become unfocused and unsocial at times. This can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster, because 3s have really high highs but also really low lows, and Joanna might be prone towards depression, swinging between one side and the other. That's very common with 3 life paths. Now Joanna is very likely to try to hide her emotions. I have heard people criticize her for seeming a little bit cold, where in actuality there's a whole lot rumbling under the surface, and she's afraid to be vulnerable in that way. She's afraid to allow other people to see where she's weak, because she likely has such a heavy hammer on herself. 3s are notorious for being overly critical of themselves, especially aesthetically, but also in their abilities. The hammer is very, very heavy. So this can come off as a little bit standoffish or maybe a little bit cold, but really this is her trying to save face. This needs to be focused on, because when we don't allow ourselves to feel our emotions, that can lead to ill health, and 3s can be very prone to ill health because of the abundant emotions. You know, we have to work through the emotions so that they don't get stuck and they don't start having actual physical manifestations. Now Joanna is on a path of cultivating expression, joy, creativity, and pleasure in this life. This is also a very highly intelligent path. Now her emotional sensitivity can feel both a blessing and a curse. As I said before, there are high highs and low lows on this path. And so learning how to stay middle of the road can be a challenge. There's also that tendency, because 3 life paths are sponges in their environment, that Joanna might pick up a lot of emotions from the people around her. She might pick up a lot of energy from her husband, Chip, who has a very, very strong energy. So I imagine it would be difficult for her to be able to completely separate his energy from her energy. Fortunately, his energy is strong in a very effervescent way, so that helps her to navigate those low lows. Maybe I'll do a video on their compatibility at some point. If you want to see that, let me know below, and I will dedicate time to preparing that so that I can have that for you. But nevertheless, Joanna can have a tendency to really scatter her energy, scatter it across responsibilities or across businesses, projects, really. Now, the strongest antidote to this would be the 6 energy of cultivating a sort of domestic, a stable domestic life. This would create the foundation from which she can launch any endeavor. And looking at her life from the outside, I don't know her personally, it does seem like she has that strong foundation with Chip and all of her kids. And I think this has really enabled her also to be able to launch her life in such a big way. Now, Joanna's sub-lesson is the Karmic 119. The sub-lesson is the second strongest lesson that one has in the chart. So strongest being the life path, and that was the 3 that we just went over. The Karmic 119 lesson is all about leadership, ambition, strength, durability, and originality. It's a very entrepreneurial type of energy. It is asking her to develop confidence in her creativity, just like her 3 life path. One aspect of this is learning how to trust and be okay with following her own unique voice. Now, that can take a lot of time to fully learn for anybody. And it seems like Joanna has learned that, and look at her life right now. However, this can be a lesson of hard knocks. There's a lot of difficulty with the 1 energy in particular when it's a lesson, but when it's a karmic lesson like this, it really makes that even harder. Some of the knocks that she's had to take in life can be really difficult for most people to overcome. Now, fortunately, she has that 3 life path, and as I'll talk about later, her growth number is the 1, which also works to alleviate some of the pressure and infuse some of the more positive aspects of the 1 energy so that it's not so hard. Now, another aspect of this 1 lesson is about cultivating assertiveness. You know, it's not just about following her own unique voice, but it's about knowing when she's allowed to speak up for herself, when she's allowed to pursue what it is that she wants to do. Now, 1s are energies that are about creating self-sufficiency. 1s don't like to be dependent on other people. Now, there is a caveat there, because if there's a conflict with the 1, it can swing into codependence, but it can equally swing into hyper independence. So there is that possibility, but in general, 1s don't want to feel like they are dependent on other people. And so as a lesson, we would see people like Joanna doing everything they can to work for themselves as an entrepreneur in order to create a life in which they don't have to depend on anyone. So as I said at the top of this video, Joanna has changed her name, right? She got married, so it changed from Joanna Leah Stevens to Joanna Leah Gaines. This has changed 50% of her core energies. Now, the energies in the core aspect of the chart that are dependent on the name are the expression and the soul urge. Now, Joanna's natal expression when she was Joanna Leah Stevens was at the 6th energy, and I notated this before, that having that 6 is the best antidote to that 3 life path, right? And so she grew up with the expression of the 6. What does the expression mean? The expression is basically the personality, like this is who she is. The 3 is what she's learning, that's the life path. The sub-lesson is also another thing that she is learning, but the expression is who she is. So the expression holds the abilities that we have chosen to help us on her life's journey. Now, Joanna's is at the 6th energy of hearth and home, which is perfect and very apropos for what it is that she has made a living doing around houses, real estate, design. So this is hearth and home in both the physical and the emotional sense. This can be a very mama bear type of energy, and I believe Joanna now has 5 kids, and it has been evident throughout all the seasons on Fixer Upper that she loves kids, she loves being a mom. So this makes a lot of sense, knowing that her natal expression was the 6. Now, the 6 is also about responsibility, being someone who takes up the burden from others. So it could be that earlier in life, Joanna found herself maybe taking on too many responsibilities that weren't hers and really bogging herself down, or maybe even going towards a martyrdom in a way. Sixes have a tendency to do that, to lose themselves in caring for other people, parents, siblings, children, friends. There's a real protective instinct here, and that is so overpowering that it's easy to lose oneself in it. Now, beyond that, there's also a need to seek justice and fairness with the sixth energy. So this could be very important for Joanna, working towards causes that she feels like can benefit other people, because again, there's that really innate need to help other people. Now, the very core of this energy, again, because the six, at the base of the six is the 3, and that's creativity. The 6 is also a very creative number. Typically, it's very creative with music. However, it's creative with design also. And this is exactly what we see with Joanna. She's known for her design. So interior design, especially because this is the hearth and home energy, creativity within the home would be a strength of hers. So when Joanna got married, the sixth energy kind of fell into the background. It's still there. It's still a part of who she is. But with her name change, the 11-2 came to the forefront as her expression. This is a master number. This is a master number about guiding other people, leading other people with wisdom and sensitivity. And also, it's a very abstract type of energy where there's, again, an emphasis on intuition and maybe even some spirituality. This is a harmonizing power. So working with other people is a real strength with this energy. It's about being the leader, but it's kind of a soft leader. Not soft as in weak, but soft as in having the ability to bring everybody together on the same page. That could be a real strength of hers. Also working in a partnership. So we see that she's done Fixer Upper with her husband. That is like, I give her an A+ with that, because that is exactly what she needs to be doing. Now the flip side of this energy, because every energy has a flip side, is being very anxious and very hypersensitive. Now the 3 is sensitive. The 11-2 is incredibly sensitive. It's sensitive not just emotionally, it's sensitive to tastes, to sounds, to temperatures, to everything. Now, my husband is an 11-2 life path, and I find that he needs to have some sort of control over the temperature in our apartment here. He's also very picky with his foods. Sensitivity to all things is under that umbrella. So again, there's another tendency here for her to have a very heavy hammer, being very critical of herself, but also because the 11-2 is such a big energy, it's very easy to feel crushed underneath, and there could be some tendencies for self-sabotage here. Because the number 3 is her life path, and she might have this underlying tendency to self-sabotage that could be unconsciously what we see when she is starting a new business and running herself in all different directions. Now, establishing some routine and stability can really help alleviate these flip sides of the energy and help her to feel much more balanced. Now, the last aspect of the core chart that I'm discussing today is the soul urge. And the soul urge represents one's innermost motivations and desires. Now, Joanna's natal soul urge is the 6 energy, just like her natal expression. Having both of these at the same time would have created a conflict. And with the conflict, that just means that she really came here to master the 6 energy. The conflicts can represent double the challenge, but also double the opportunities once you have gotten through the challenges. Now, conflicts are typically resolved by the early to mid 20s. And once they're resolved for good. Now, having the conflicts with the 6 energy would have really amplified her focus on beauty, making her life beautiful, both in terms of relationships, having beautiful, supportive relationships, but also her surroundings. This also means perfectionism toward herself. So we're seeing a real theme here in her chart where there's a focus of being very overly critical of herself. We see that with the 6 energy that we're talking about now. We see this with her 3 life path. And even the 11-2 expression, that is now her current expression. This is a theme throughout her chart that I hope that she recognizes in herself. And she doesn't have to be so hard on herself. But this is where it's coming from. It's because there is a lot of focus in her chart on being the best. Also with that 1 soul urge, that 119 karmic soul urge, being the best, being perfect. It's very difficult to live under. Now, the 6 energy, as I already mentioned, that's hearth and home. There's that emphasis on justice, on fairness, on creativity, especially in design, and having a strong domestic front, both in the physical dwelling and also in terms of family. Now, when Joanna got married and she changed her last name to Gaines, this changed her soul urge to the 2 energy. The 2 energy is all about diplomacy and partnership and uplifting others. It's a very similar energy to the 6, but it's a little bit less complex, which can be a very good thing. This 2, as her soul urge, also underlies that 11/2 expression that came in also when she got married. So one-on-one dynamics are really her forte, especially at this point, in working one-on-one. Again, she works with her husband, Chip, which is the perfect circumstance for her. The 2 is a very yin type of energy, very feminine type of energy, and the 1 is a very yang energy. So she has that 1 as her sub-lesson, and the next coming up, I'll be talking about her growth number also as the 1. So she has both the yang in the 1 and the yin in the 2, which actually works to balance each other very, very well. And then with her life path as the 3, which stems from the 1 and the 2, if you think of the 1 as the father, the 2 as the mother, the 3 is the child. So she has all 3 aspects in her chart, which makes her very well-rounded and also helps her to access different strengths and abilities when necessary. But really what's driving her, with the 2 being her soul urge, is to be a support. And she wants to do this because she wants there to be peace in her life. She wants she wouldn't be someone, now I don't know her personally, but just based off of her chart, she wouldn't be someone who necessarily likes conflict. Now, the next aspect of her chart, I don't consider a part of the core chart. It could be, arguably, but it is not as strong as the other energies. And this is the secret self. This is the motivation behind the motivation. So we just spoke about the soul urge. And the soul urge can be evident to yourself, and other people can see it fairly easily. The secret self isn't so easy to identify necessarily, and many times an individual isn't even aware consciously of what is really driving them. So for Joanna, her secret self is at the 9 energy. This didn't change when she changed her name. It can change in Joanna's circumstance, her secret self stayed the same at the 9 energy. Now the 9 energy is a very heart-centric energy. It's a humanitarian type of energy, very philanthropic, so we would expect her to really care about helping other people. I mean, really at the core here is that she strives to help other people find solutions to their problems. Also, what is very interesting here is that at the base of the 9 is also the 3. She has the 6 in her chart. At the base of the 6 is also the 3. And then she has her 3 life path. The 3 is all about creativity. Now, the 9 is a very complex number because it contains elements of all the numbers 1 through 9. However, the 3 would be especially emphasized here because it shows up so many times in her chart, with the actual 3 life path, but also with the 6 and now the 9. So creativity, again, the arts, design is a real strength of hers. And another aspect of the 9, very similar to that 119 karmic debt that she has, is being knocked down a bit by life throughout her life. Now the 9 comes at the end of the numbers 1 through 9, and so it's the number of endings, of completion. It could be the number of loss. Now I don't know a whole lot about Joanna's childhood. I actually don't know anything about her childhood. However, the 9 can indicate issues of loss or entanglement within the family, where there could have been some family issues growing up that could have really affected her ability to trust other people, or it could have created feelings of guilt or maybe even obsession about having to be there for certain people or certain relationships or something that isn't necessarily serving her highest good all the time. The 9 is also a very charismatic energy. Charismatic not only in the, it doesn't always have to mean like putting herself out there, although we see that she's on TV, but she has this quiet charisma about her, and it allows us to look at her and identify easily with her, and that makes people like her. So we might find sometimes other people can look to Joanna as a leader or as a guide, and Joanna could be sitting there internally freaking out because, yeah, she's probably going to accept this leadership role. However, she might not feel like she even knows what she's doing or what she's talking about. Now, let's talk about the growth number, because I talk about the growth number a lot on this channel, especially when it comes to baby names. The growth number comes from the first name, and it is the only aspect of the chart that carries only the positive aspects of the number and not so much the negative aspects. And this can be really helpful, especially because we can't control the birthday, you can control the name. It can be very helpful in balancing out conflicts if you are aware that there are conflicts that do exist. For example, when your child is born, or if later on in life you want to change your name, your first name, changing your first name will change your growth number. Now, tapping into the positive abilities that come from your growth number is exactly what you need to do to advance or to grow. It's the growth number on your life's journey. You have these abilities, they are innate. They do require cultivation, however. So Joanna's growth number is the 1 energy. So this helps her balance out that 119 karmic debt that she has as her sublesson. Her sublesson comes from her birthday, so that can't be changed. Having the 1 as the growth is really the best thing that she can have. So it's very nice to see this. Now, having the 1 as her growth number endows Joanna with leadership capabilities and ambition and confidence, but particularly with independence, the ability to get projects started and done. Now, 1 growth energy people are typically excellent self-starters. And the one really is the energy of the entrepreneur. So having this as the growth number really helps even more so carry out any sort of desire to become an entrepreneur. Now, within our charts are something called karmic lessons, and these are leftover lessons from previous lifetimes. They point to weaknesses, and we can work on them in this lifetime, or we can ignore them and we won't be dinged for ignoring them. The first karmic lesson that Joanna has is with the 7 energy. With this, she may find some difficulty handling her emotions. And particularly, we see this on the out of alignment side with the 3 life path, and also being super sensitive with the 11-2 as her now current expression. This could be a running theme in her life, just having a lot of emotions that are really hard to handle. Now, again, I don't know a lot about Joanna's childhood. However, those with the 7 karmic lesson tend to have childhoods that create a lot of emotional turmoil that lasts, where the turmoil lasts into adulthood. The lesson here is learning how to be her own critic without condemning herself. So there it is again, that heavy hammer. Please, Joanna, if you are watching this, recognize that you don't have to be so hard on yourself. Now, the next lesson that Joanna has is around the 8 energy, and having the karmic lesson of the 8 can mean that there's this tendency to work a lot at the expense of valuable relationships. So she can be very self-regulating, and again, this draws off of the 1 energy that she has of being independent. So self-regulating and independent, not wanting to answer to someone else. It's likely she hates being micromanaged, and she might tend to resist authority. So this lesson does involve the material side of life, but it also involves the personal boundary side of life. This is about Joanna establishing healthy boundaries for how much work she does, and being able to say, that's enough. Now I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to focus on my family and what I need to recharge. So the third lesson, or the final lesson that Joanna has, is around the 9 energy. So with this karmic lesson, she can tend to be very home-centric, very focused on her friends and family, and this is a lesson that's asking her to expand that view to a larger scale, to ask herself, how can she serve the greatest good? I'm gonna end it here because my camera keeps running out of space. However, if you want to read the full report, I will make that available in the description down below. It's also available on my website. And if you would like to work with me, then head on over to www.lightbrightnumerology.com/services if you want to check out what I do offer, and you can order directly from there. If you want more from me, make sure to like and subscribe. If you are watching on Facebook, then like my page. I put out a video every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays are my baby name videos, and Thursdays are videos like this on miscellaneous topics. I hope you have a light, bright, joyous day. Mwah.